I just finished this sketchbook. I thought I would flip through it and let you guys see what a few years of working sketches looks like for me. This is where I figured out what the characters I was drawing were going to look like, worked out how their poses were going to be, tried out visual ideas, did practice, things like that. So I'm going to flip through the whole thing. Feel free to jump around, stop at any time, pause if there's a page that you want to look at more. Here we go. So first few pages, I was working with the old classic famous artist cartoon course, and I was working through it, found it online. So I was practicing how other people drew cartoon characters. This was a logo for an event here in Alpine. I was playing around with lettering. I kind of liked this balloon shape, Fiesta del Sol. Some poodles. Practicing with a nib pen, also out of the famous artist cartoon course. There's an exercise they assigned. Some food, some coolers for a design project. A ringtail, a couple of bats, more food. Here's some more Mexican hog-nosed bats. Roadrunners, a snake. This was an exercise book, with a lot of prompts that I completely ignored because I just used it for what I was doing. This was a logo for our studio time to try and invite more people to come. Practice skull. This was the skull I wound up with. I was working on a sticker that was a Demon Rodeo was the theme. Now, this is a little abstract painting I'm really, really, really fond of. I did it pretty quick, and I felt abstract expressionist that day. A couple moons I never did anything with. I did a little painting of this boy holding antler twigs up against his head. This, I was working out poses for a boy sharing his cookie dough with his cat. This was a repeating pattern I was trying to figure out. This was some sketches for it was a beer label for Brick Vault in Marathon. A couple of mule deer, a rattlesnake, that was I was working on for a painting. Random photo. This was another logo project I was trying to work out. I wound up not using any of these pencil sketches. Approached it differently, just straight in Illustrator. These brush strokes were textures I needed for a design piece, and then I drew some pronghorns on it. A couple sloths, just doodling. More texture. Here's Buddy Holly, Roy Orbison, half of a deer skull. This is my friend Amelie's cat. There he is again. That's Merple. This is for an Easter event poster I was playing with. Just a little inside joke for a friend. Right, back to that Easter poster. We had this little rabbit looking at an egg. And this is when I was going to do a big live painting at the talent show that the public library fund was raising funds for, and I worked out this pose and I painted it really big live on the stage. Practice, practice. All right, here's an actual complete little painting. I was working on getting better with gouache. This was 2022. I've had this book since 2018. This I was sketching for this artwork for a single for the band that I play with. This was our cover of Head and the Heart's Lost in My Mind. A little more detail for the lettering. See, we're getting lost in the cursive. This was for the public library too, a little fundraiser. I wound up using these letters and tracing them. Right, this more doodling while videos were playing. And here I started taking a how to draw a bird workshop that the Guild of Natural Science Illustrators Conference had. And so there's a lot of instructions of how John Muir Laws draws birds. It was really, really helpful. More birds. Happened to be a page where they'd already printed some birds on it. All the wing feathers, structure of how they lay when they fold up, it was amazing. The feet, the biology or the anatomy of bird feet, so good. And then he suggested that we draw 100 birds, so I started. I didn't get to 100. Number 7. This little Ernie was for a painting I did for a friend. And then we went to Port Aransas, and I did some shorebirds while we were there. I did a print of this one. I love that little drawing. And I did a painting of this pelican in another book that I was working out how that was going to be. And here's when I started working on coyotes and getting back to desert animal wildlife. So I did a lot of doodles of how are these coyotes going to look. More coyotes. More coyotes. Some puppies. I decided I was going to do them with their puppies, and here I did some color studies for a painting. My first like wildlife painting I had done in the larger series I'm working on now. This is for the second painting. All right, here's like the composition of the first painting with the, roughly I was working on how that was going to go with the coyote carrying her baby. And this one was figuring out the colors for one with the coyote sleeping, her pups are asleep. And so then lots of pages of, here's the thumbnail composition, and then I really had to work out how were all these puppies, where were they lying on their mama's legs. These were for a poster for the band, little doodles, working out the composition. And then these were from the next painting of coyotes that I did. Here I was working on, again, how the colors were going to work. And I wound up shifting my color deciding onto the iPad. And here's where the bears begin. So these were the first sketches I had done of bears as I'm working on a bear project. These were from Ken Holtgren's Drawing Animals. He worked for Disney for a long time, and so all of these poses are straight out of his book. And I just was figuring out how does he do it? How does he shape them? Then I shifted over to photographs. So these are all looking at photos that I found on Google Images and trying out those poses. Then this is one I just made up. And the painting I did of the black bear cubs that I did a fundraiser for Borderlands Research Institute, this is where I worked out the paint off my brushes as I was painting. Here's a little drawing of the bears in a big pinon pine tree. Now I'm figuring out how do I act with these? How do I give them personality, different emotions? And there's a lot of effort trying to figure out how the cubs are going to fight. This one was really close. I almost settled on this, but I felt like this cub was losing. This guy was winning too much. So then I wound up getting them both on the ground. They're just trying to knock each other over. And that is real close to the final. And here I'm working out the composition of that painting a bunch of times. Then I start on prairie dogs, and I'll be getting back to prairie dogs. This again, I was doing a lot of dry brush, and so this page was I would just drag the ink off my brush so I had just a little bit and get the right dry brush texture. More prairie dogs. A lot of these are from photos. I'm trying to work out how do they work. And here I had an idea for a composition that I abandoned, but I wanted this guy giving alarm calls in the foreground. Let's see, this is Kaylee French, or my attempt. She's the outreach coordinator for Nature Conservancy in West Texas, and I'm working with her on a longer term project. This grackle-ish bird was from artwork from another single that my band put out, or hopefully will be out soon. We're back on more bears. Rock, Salt, and Nails is the name of the single. And so this stuff is from that artwork that hopefully one day soon will actually be released. Waiting on CD Baby to work out the kinks and get that out there. We have more bears for the book I just released. Little dachshund, he shows up in there. This is Raymond Skiles, figuring out his portrait. A bear collar. All these things are in that little bear book you can find at my website. These are the first attempts at drawing Matthew Hewitt, and that was the closest one. Here, again, working out a bear sitting in a tree eating acorns off a branch, and I needed to get where is his arms and where's his legs. Then this was figuring out what my how to draw a bear pose was going to be. Here's a mama bear carrying her pups, figuring out how did the baby hanging off of her mouth, how does he hang, and how does this other baby walk. Then last few pages I did a jackrabbit painting recently, so I started fresh. I was looking at photographs. I really liked the symmetrical ears, so I started from that, and I was working with that, looking for the right pose of a rabbit kind of standing at alert. And then that is the last page of that sketchbook. Again, this is where I was testing brushes when I was doing the painting. And that is the end of that sketchbook. Maybe I'll do the same thing when I finish the next one.